Good morning. It is April 27th. Judges 7:1 through 8:17. So Jerubbaal, that is, Gideon, and his army got up early and went as far as the spring of Harod. The armies of Midian were camped north of them in the valley near the hill of Morah. The Lord said to Gideon, "You have too many warriors with you. If I let all of you fight the Midianites, the Israelites will boast to me that they saved themselves by their own strength. Therefore tell the people, whoever is timid or afraid may leave this mountain and go home." So 22,000 of them went home, leaving only 10,000 who were willing to fight. But the Lord told Gideon, "There are still too many. Bring them down to the spring, and I will test them to determine who will go with you and who will not." When Gideon took his warriors down to the water, the Lord told him, "Divide the men into two groups. In one group put all those who cup water in their hands and lap it up with their tongues like dogs. In the other group put all those who kneel down and drink with their mouths in the stream." I wouldn't do either. I mean, I would cup it and then drink it like that. I wouldn't lap it. That's just odd. Is that normal? Am I abnormal? Okay, anyway. Sorry for the detour. Only 300 of the men drank from their hands. All the others got down on their knees and drank with their mouths in the stream. The Lord told Gideon, "With these 300 men I will rescue you and give you victory over the Midianites. Send all the others home." So Gideon collected the provisions and ram's horns of the other warriors and sent them home, but he kept the 300 men with him. The Midianite camp was in the valley just below Gideon. That night the Lord said, "Get up, go down into the Midianite camp, for I have given you victory over them. But if you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah. Listen to what the Midianites are saying, and you will be greatly encouraged. Then you will be eager to attack." Because remember, Gideon said that his clan was the weakest clan, and he was the least of his family. So Gideon took Purah and went down to the edge of the enemy camp. The armies of Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east had settled in the valley like a swarm of locusts. Their camels were like grains of sand on the seashore, too many to count. It's a lot of camels. Gideon crept up just as the man was telling his companion about a dream. The man said, "I had this dream, and in my dream a loaf of barley bread came tumbling down into the Midianite camp. It hit a tent, turned it over, and knocked it flat." His companion answered, "Your dream can mean only one thing. God has given Gideon, son of Joash the Israelite, victory over Midian and all its allies." So, I just love how all the enemies know each other's names. You know, if Gideon was the least, how would he know Gideon's name? I wonder weird things, don't I? Sorry. And then I guess a loaf of barley bread is Gideon or the Israelites? I'm not sure of the connection. If you know, please tell me. When Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation, he bowed in worship before the Lord. Then he returned to the Israelite camp and shouted, "Get up, for the Lord has given you victory over the Midianite hordes." He divided the 300 men into 3 groups and gave each man a ram's horn and a clay jar with a torch in it. Then he said to them, "Keep your eyes on me. When I come to the edge of the camp, do just as I do. As soon as I and those with me blow the ram's horns, blow your horns too, all around the entire camp, and shout, 'For the Lord and for Gideon.'" Why say for Gideon? Just say for the Lord. I don't understand a lot of this stuff. I will one day. It was just after midnight, after the changing of the guard, when Gideon and the 100 men with him reached the edge of the Midianite camp. Suddenly they blew the ram's horns and broke their clay jars. Then all 3 groups blew their horns and broke their jars. They held the blazing torches in their left hands and the horns in their right hands, and they all shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." Each man stood at his position around the camp and watched as all the Midianites rushed around in a panic, shouting as they ran to escape. When the 3 Israelites blew their ram's horns, the Lord caused the warriors in the camp to fight against each other with their swords. Those who were not killed fled to places as far away as Beth Shittah, near Zerera, and to the border of Abel Meholah, near Tabith. Then Gideon sent for the warriors of Naphtali, Asher, and Manasseh, who joined in chasing the army of Midian. Gideon also sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim, saying, "Come down to attack the Midianites, cut them off at the shallow crossings of the Jordan River at Beth Barah." So all the men of Ephraim did as they were told. They captured Oreb and Zeb, the two Midianite commanders, killing Oreb at the rock of Oreb, and Zeb at the winepress of Zeb. How fitting. And they continued to chase the Midianites. Afterward the Israelites brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon, who was by the Jordan River. Then the people of Ephraim asked Gideon, "Why have you treated us this way? Why didn't you send for us when you first went out to fight the Midianites?" And they argued heatedly with Gideon. But Gideon replied, "What have I accomplished compared to you? Aren't even the leftover grapes of Ephraim's harvest better than the entire crop of my little clan of Abiezer? God gave you victory over Oreb and Zeb, the commanders of the Midianite army. What have I accomplished compared to that?" When the men of Ephraim heard Gideon's answer, their anger subsided. See, humility. I need to learn that as well, because sometimes my pride gets up and, I argue then, and I don't like it. Gideon then crossed the Jordan River with his 300 men, and though exhausted, they continued to chase the enemy. When they reached Sukkoth, Gideon asked the leaders of the town, "Please give my warriors some food. They are very tired. I'm chasing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." But the officials of Sukkoth replied, "Catch Zebah and Zalmunna first, and then we will feed your army." Gee, thanks. So Gideon said, "After the Lord gives me victory over Zebah and Zalmunna, I will return and tear your flesh with the thorns and briars from the wilderness." Ouch. From there, Gideon went up to Peniel and again asked for food, but he got the same answer. So he said to the people of Peniel, "After I return in victory, I will tear down this tower." By this time, Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor with 15,000 warriors, all that remained of the allied armies of the east, for 120,000 had already been killed. Gideon circled around by the caravan route, east of Nobah and Jogbeah, taking the Midianite army by surprise. Zebah and Zalmunna, the two Midianite kings, fled, but Gideon chased them down and captured all their warriors. After this, Gideon returned from the battle by way of Harry's Pass. There he captured a young man from Sukkoth and demanded that he write down the names of all the 77 officials and elders in the town. Gideon then returned to Sukkoth and said to the leaders, "Here are Zebah and Zalmunna. When we were here before, you taunted me, saying, 'Catch Zebah and Zalmunna first, and then we will feed your exhausted army.'" Then Gideon took the elders of the town and taught them a lesson, punishing them with thorns and briars from the wilderness. He also tore down the tower of Peniel and killed all the men in that town. Harsh, 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 harsh. I'm glad we're more civilized now. Or are we? I don't know. That remains to be seen, I think. Luke 23:13 through 43. Then Pilate called together the leading priests and other religious leaders along with the people, and he announced his verdict. "You brought this man to me, accusing him of leading a revolt. I have examined him thoroughly on this point in your presence and find him innocent." Herod came to the same conclusion and sent him back to us. "Nothing this man has done calls for the death penalty, so I will have him flogged, and then I will release him." So he did nothing, but we're still going to flog him. I can't. Then a mighty roar rose from the crowd, and with one voice they shouted, "Kill him, and release Barabbas to us." Barabbas was in prison for taking part in an insurrection in Jerusalem against the government and for murder. Pilate argued with them because he wanted to release Jesus, but they kept shouting, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" That's pretty horrible that they would rather have a murderer, because it was their custom to release a prisoner on at this time every year, and so they chose Barabbas, a murderer, to be released instead of Jesus, who had done no one any harm, but yet they let a murderer go. Do you have that same attitude in your heart? We all have to examine our own hearts. Let's get right with God. For the third time he demanded, "Why? What crime has he committed? I have found no reason to sentence him to death, so I will have him flogged, and then I will release him." But the mob shouted louder and louder, demanding that Jesus be crucified, and their voices prevailed. Here again, they shouted louder so that their voices were heard. The blind guy on the side of the road, or it could have been two blind men, on the side of the road, and when people told them to be quiet, they shouted louder to get Jesus' attention. We need to get the world's attention, so we need to shout louder. There's 2 instances in here already that back that. Shout louder. So Pilate sentenced Jesus to die as they demanded. As they had requested, he released Barabbas, the man in prison for insurrection and murder, but he turned Jesus over to them to do as they wished. As they led Jesus away, a man named Simon, who was from Cyrene, happened to be coming in from the countryside. The soldiers seized him and put the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large crowd trailed behind, including many grief-stricken women. But Jesus turned and said to them, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For the days are coming when they will say, 'Fortunate indeed are the women who are childless, the wombs that have not borne a child, and the breasts that have never nursed.' People will beg the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and plead with the hills, 'Bury us.' For if these things are done when the tree is green, what will happen when it is dry?" And of course he's referring to himself. That as long as he's there, like while he's there, all these things are happening. So what happens when he's gone? He's never really gone. He's in our hearts. But you know what I'm saying? 2 others, both criminals, were led out to be executed with him. When they came to a place called the Skull, or Golgotha, right? 33 times rendered Calvary. Ooh. Sometimes rendered Calvary, which comes from the Latin word for skull. I did not know that. Latin Calvary in Latin is skull. Interesting. We learned something new today. Okay, anyway. When they came to a place called the Skull, they nailed him to the cross, and the criminals were also crucified, one on his right and one on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And the soldiers gambled for his clothes by throwing dice, and that was prophesied. The crowd watched, and the leaders scoffed. "He saved others," they said. "Let him save himself if he is really God's Messiah, the chosen one." The soldiers mocked him too by offering him a drink of sour wine. They called out to him, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." A sign was fastened above him with these words, "This is the King of the Jews." And the Pharisees and them, they didn't like that. They wanted that changed. One of the criminals hanging beside him scoffed, "So, you're the Messiah, are you? Prove it by saving yourself, and us too while you're at it." But the other criminal protested, "Do you not fear God even when you have been sentenced to die? We deserve to die for our crimes. But this man has not done anything wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus replied, "I assure you, today you will be with me in paradise." I'm glad they didn't go through all the torture that Jesus went through, because I would have been just crying. I'm already choked up right now. So this is why so many Christians believe that once you die, as soon as you die, if you're born again, you go straight to heaven because of that. Today you will be with me in paradise. Jesus told that. It's heavy. Heavy when I think about what Jesus did for me. I feel so unworthy of his love. Especially whenever I'm not where I should be. And I guess we never will be until we're in heaven with Jesus face to face. But it still weighs heavy on my heart. And I feel like I'm really disappointing him sometimes. That's why it's so important for Christians to band together, to hang out, to, of course, assemble for church services, whether that's in your home, whether that's somewhere else, but as long as you're gathering together and studying God's Word, and to just lift each other up, pray for each other. It's very important because we all are struggling. We are all stumbling along this path to heaven. So let's help each other out. Post your prayer requests below. I'll pray for you. I'll pray with you. You can send me a message at da.pohouse, P-O-H-O-U-S-E. That's on Instagram and Facebook, so you can send me a message there. And that's it for today. Don't forget to click over here for Psalms and Proverbs. Thank you guys so much for reading with me. Have a great day. God bless you. I love you guys. Bye.